Today was an educational day. Learned something about when a stock or a company gets nationalized. I did a video on this company, Uniper. I think it was 7 days ago, and today got a notification saying that they plunged. It's gone, but saying that they plunged 30% today alone because they're being nationalized. And I didn't really understand what that meant. I had a general idea that it was when the government essentially takes over, but looking into it, it seems to be considered more bad than good. Like, it can happen if a company is doing well, but the government decides that it would be even more profitable if they took control. But it seems to generally depend on the government themselves. Each particular government will have they'll have their own rules of engagement, and a dictatorship will just take it. So the general idea of nationalizing a stock or a company is that the government takes control, and they can do this with companies or stocks or entire industries, which has happened in history quite a few times. And they may not compensate for any loss, which is why a lot of people seem to think it's a bad thing. It's up to them whether or not they give you back anything. So a dictatorship wouldn't, they would just take it. But it depends on the government of the country. And Uniper is a German stock, so it will depend on the German government. So what I could see when I was digging was that it often involves legal proceedings and court cases, things like that, protests a lot of the time, to make sure that a government kind of pays out a fair price. But it's up to them. They will decide the price. I saw a lot of articles talking about independent valuers coming in to decide what a fair market price would be. And I got in at, my average price is €8.42 per share. So I'm probably going to lose, it'll only be a small bit. So I'm down 63%. I put in about €30 in total and I'm down €20. So I'll get probably this back if it doesn't fall any lower. And maybe if they decide on a fair price, I could get lucky. But as I said, it's up to them. But it is kind of in their interest to pay a decent price because, you know, future trades and the future perspective of that government from its own population kind of depends on how they behave. You know, if it's a dictatorship, you don't really get a choice. They'll just take it, and if you protest, you'll get stomped. There is a few places like that in the world. But generally, it's kind of in their interest to give out a fair price, but it's entirely up to them, unfortunately. It would kind of put off other companies in the future if they were seen to just step in and, you know, kind of screw people over. Then it would deter people from dealing with that government in the future. Even the shareholders of the company would be very annoyed. It's not always for negative reasons. So it can be to stabilize a company, which seems to be what's happening here. Now that's a negative one, definitely. The company is losing €11 per share, earnings per share of minus €11. That dividend is not going to be happening, I doubt. It can also be done, as I said, for positive reasons. If the government thinks that their control of a company or an entire industry would be more profitable, then they can do it. But overall, it seems to be considered a bad thing. Saw a lot of websites and articles that are claiming that investors seem to really dislike it. Now, when this happens, if the government who does it, the government who nationalizes the company or the industry, they decide that the market valuation, let's say in this case, was €5, that can be paid out in cash or it can be paid out in government stock. But it seems to be usually cash from what I could see. And then I found a little piece on the Bank of England website about shareholders being issued government stock when it was nationalized in 1946. So it can be either or, but it seems to generally be cash. And if you're unlucky or unfortunately living in, I won't say any names, but modern day dictatorship, they can and often do just take the company or take the industry, and no one gets compensated. I personally am not going to be putting any more into Uniper because I've never been through when a stock or a company gets nationalized before, so I'm just going to wait this one out. But hopefully the price that they decide on is reasonable for everyone. As I said, it depends on the German government, of which I know nothing about. So let's see what happens, I suppose. Time will tell.